The second officer and the duty AB of the vessel Hafnia Nile have been charged over collision with a sanctioned tanker Ceres I by the Singapore's MPA in July 2024, which resulted in one death and one serious burn injury. If convicted under the Merchant Shipping Act, they each tend to face 2 years in jail and a maximum fine of 50,000 Singapore dollars. The incident, which occurred off the southern coast of Malaysia, created an uproar at that time and raised extensive concerns over the safety of an aging oil tankers engaged in sanctions-busting oil trades. The seafarers charged under Singapore's Merchant Shipping Act are a 35-year-old Indian national, Susai Anthony Weiner, and a 40-year-old Sri Lankan, Vikramage Vijay Pereira. Singapore media CNA reported. Citing the charge sheets, CNA said that Pereira, who was the officer in charge of the navigational watch at the time, allegedly failed to fully assess the navigational risk, maintain situational awareness, and ensure a proper lookout, which led to the collision with Ceres I. The Ceres I is a 2001 built VLCC and was detained by Malaysian authorities and sanctioned by the US in December that year for shipping Iranian oil. She was lying at anchor, arrested. The collision caused serious damage to both tankers and resulted in the death of Selakannu Shanamugdaram and serious injuries to Ge Junfu, both of them who were on board the Ceres I. Weiner, the AB who was the duty lookout, reportedly observed Hafnia Nile approaching the Ceres I but did not report it to the officer in charge. He allegedly steered the vessel without direction and failed to keep a proper lookout, contributing to the accident. The case is being prosecuted by the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore, which has been approached for comments. The two crew members were advised by their own lawyers with Hafnia's support, the Oslo-listed operator told Lloyd List in an emailed response. Hafnia and the crew on board Hafnia Nile cooperated fully with the MPA and all other authorities during their investigations into the incident, and we respect the workings and findings of the legal process. We will otherwise not be providing further commentary on the matter while the court proceedings and investigation conclusions are ongoing. Both the crew members appeared in the state courts on the 2nd of July and the case has been adjourned to a later date. If convicted, the two men will face up to 2 years in jail and a fine of about 50,000 Singapore dollars or both. An accident report by the Singapore's Transport Safety Investigation Bureau said that the Hafnia Nile's second mate had had just 2 hours of rest in a 38.5-hour period. I will come back to this. The final report by the Singapore's Transport Safety Investigation Bureau (TSIB) into the fatal collision highlights fatigue and issues around hours of work and rest for the seafarers. The collision occurred when the Singapore-registered Hafnia Nile was attempting to navigate between Sao Tome and Principe registered tanker Ceres I and another vessel off the east coast of the Peninsula Malaysia. The collision between the Hafnia Nile and the Ceres I resulted in a fire on both vessels and serious burn injuries for 2 shore workers who were on board the VLCC, one of which later died. According to the TSIB report, during the approach by the Hafnia Nile, the second mate was the officer of the watch but had left the wheelhouse and gone into the chart room to prepare administrative reports, leaving the able seaman deck alone to manage the bridge. During the midnight to 6 o'clock watch, while navigating in close proximity to several targets, the second mate left the wheelhouse to prepare the IFC and the amber reports, leaving only the AB to manage the bridge. These reports were not time critical and could have been completed later in the day. By prioritizing administrative work over navigation during a developing traffic situation, the bridge team's situational awareness was reduced and the watchkeeping arrangement did not align with the SMS expectation that navigation duties must not be disrupted by non-operational tasks. As per the report's conclusions, lack of adequate rest and fatigue for the two seafarers, both of whom had joined the vessel following overnight international travel, were highlighted in this report. The second officer had less than 2 hours of uninterrupted rest in the 38.5-hour period before commencing the midnight watch following the overnight travel, immediate assumption of duties after joining, and rest disturbance caused by unannounced fire alarm testing. The investigation also noted that the AB, who was signed on the same day, undertook duty shortly after arrival following overnight international travel. With only about 2 hours of rest in an over 38-hour period, the second officer was likely experiencing fatigue, which may have reduced his alertness and affected his performance and judgment during the developing close quarters situation, contributing to the occurrence. This is as per the report. The Hafnia Nile had also silenced its S-band radars CPA and TCPA, and the X-band radar alarms were deactivated, which the report said removed an important safeguard. Meanwhile, the Ceres I bridge team detected the Hafnia Nile around 6.5 nautical miles, initially assessed the situation as non-critical, and no early preparatory measures or communication were initiated, which the report described as a missed opportunity. The issue of fatigue and inadequate hours of work and rest for seafarers is well known and discussed in the industry, but a combination of commercial pressures and minimum crewing levels has meant that they have failed to be addressed. A report by the ITF Seafarers Section and the World Maritime University showed average daily working hours of 11.5 hours and weekly working hours of 74.9 hours for crew across the board. Following the collision, the TSIB report said Hafnia, the owner of the Hafnia Nile, had implemented a range of safety actions aimed at improving bridge watchkeeping practice, fatigue, risk management, bridge resource management, and situational awareness. The result of the investigation. In 2025, two crew members of the Hafnia Nile, Indian national Susan Anthony Vainer, 35, and 40-year-old Sri Lankan Vikramaditya Pereira, were charged in the Singapore State Council courts under the Merchant Shipping Act. According to the charge sheets, Pereira was the officer in charge of the navigational watch on the Hafnia Nile, and he allegedly failed to make a full appraisal of the situation and the risk of dangers to navigation, to maintain situational awareness of the areas around the Hafnia Nile, and to ensure that a proper lookout was being maintained. Weiner was the duty lookout of the navigational watch on the Hafnia Nile at the time observed that the Hafnia Nile was approaching close to the Ceres I, but allegedly did not report this to the officer in charge and instead steered the Hafnia Nile when not directed to do so. Okay, so what do we learn from this? Lots of lessons. First, obviously the rest hours. Keep in mind, your rest hours are your responsibility. If you find that you have not got your hours of rest or you are overworked beyond compensation, then it is your duty to inform your head of department or the master that you are fatigued. If you find yourself in a position where you are feeling fatigued, even if your rest hours have been maintained, it is still your responsibility to tell your superior or the master that you find yourself incapable of handling your duties. It is always and remains your own responsibility. The second part of it. It is probably because of fatigue that the second mate did not get his priorities right. He was making out messages in the chart room which were not urgent and could have been done at a later time. Or he did not realize the seriousness of the navigational watch in congested waters. Both the second mate and the AB had just joined the vessel. They were not familiar with the vessel or with each other. All the more reason to be extra careful. The second mate all but handed over the watch to the AB, and the AB took it upon himself to take action. This is why I keep telling you guys, call the master. When in doubt, call the master. Why do you want to take the responsibility for yourself? Again, the AB not only did not inform the second officer, but he took action which resulted in the collision. Had he not taken the action, probably the ship was going clear. I could not figure out from the investigation. Probably if he had done nothing, the ship might have been passing clear. The AB actually took the vessel on hand steering and he steered the vessel into the Ceres I. So, understand your role in watchkeeping. Always, additional eyes are better than one. When you are on a navigational watch, use your lookout properly. Brief the lookout. The lookout should tell you exactly what the situation is developing. He should know how to report it to you, and you have to take the action. It is good, even I prefer to train my duty ABs, educate them as to what should be the correct action, so that in case the duty officer is doing something stupid, the AB would point out to him, sir, I don't think that is quite right. But then the AB does not take the responsibility upon himself. The watch remains the duty officer's responsibility. Here in this case, the jail and the fine is secondary. What I find more important than that is these two guys have resulted in the loss of life of one and pretty much the permanent disability of another human being. Think about the families of those two who were probably just sleeping in the middle of the night. Again, the sea is a dangerous place to be in. You have to be careful. You have to take your responsibility seriously. I bring this back one more step. There are a lot of people saying, I have 60% in my 12th PCM and I have 50% in English. Why are companies not taking me? Because this is actually important. You have to be better than good just to be able to do the job. There is an immense amount of responsibility upon navigating officers. Please do not take this responsibility lightly. One last but very important point. If you are convicted of an offense and found not to be following the company SMS, the company in its graciousness may help you with your legal defense. But once convicted, they wash their hands off you. No more wages, no more employment, no more ticket. You are left high and dry. Remember this always, and as always, stay safe.